Chapter 13. I'm not sure how long we lay there, but the feeling of friendship brought back some of my courage, so I decided that the time had come to make the confession. I tiptoed downstairs and approached the kitchen. But the second Mummy heard me, she said, "Dessert, could you help the beasties wash their hands? It's time for our celebration." I felt a huge lump in my throat. I couldn't say a word, but Mummy didn't notice. Once we all got settled at the table, I didn't have a chance to speak because Mummy asked us to listen. She said, "Tonight my mother would have turned 75. How I wish she were here with us." Then she paused for a moment. She started again and said, her favorite treat was a recipe of unknown origin. She found it all typed up in English in the overhead baggage compartment on a plane trip from Paris to New York. That flight was the last one she took. Mummy's voice got bumpy. "Your grandmother waved the recipe around and asked if it belonged to anyone. I'll never be sure if it was because she asked in French or because it was fate, but nobody claimed it." Now Mummy was smiling a little bit, so she placed the card in her wallet and accepted it as her own. And then Mummy folded her hands across her plate and looked at all of us. Even though she has left us before her time, tonight we will honor her by sharing her favorite dessert. Her voice got a little quieter and she said, "We will enjoy it as if she were here at the table with us." My face was hot. I said, "Mummy, there's something I need to tell you." My voice was shaky, but it was back. "Dessert, tell me after our treat. Would you go get the white box out of the refrigerator?" "The white box with the note on it?" "Yes, honey, I'm glad you saw the note. I hope your father did too." "Mummy, happy birthday to Grandma, happy birthday to Charlie," said Mummy. "Let's wait till Dessert gets the box." "But Grandma's not here," I said. "Oh, Dessert, bring out that box. We are celebrating her life tonight." I didn't move. Mummy finally looked at me. "What's wrong, Dessert?" she asked. "I don't feel very good," was all I could get out. "You'll feel better in a minute," said Mummy, and she stood up, went right to the refrigerator, and came back with the white box. She sat it down on the table, took off the lid. She gasped. Daddy saw the guest checks. "What?" "Ah!" I screamed. The cork had popped out of me. "Ah!" I kept screaming as I ran upstairs with Chunky right behind me. "Ah!" My head was going to blow up. Daddy came charging up behind me with the box in his hand. When he got to my room, he dumped the guest checks on the floor. "What were you thinking?" he said. "Ah!" I kept screaming. Then Mummy came in, followed by Charlie and Wolfgang. A few moments later, Mushy appeared. Mummy looked like a dragon. Her mouth opened. "Ah!" And then she stopped. And the silence was worse than the screams. I said a prayer to the rug. Then Mummy said flatly, "Find a way to show us you're sorry." She turned to leave the room, looked back at me and said, "You can study your carpet until you figure out how." She and Daddy walked out, and so did Charlie and Mushy. Wolfie was the last to leave, and as he did, he said, "Sorry," with a scared smile on his face. It made me feel worse. I looked at my ceiling and said, "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry." And I meant it. Why hadn't I stayed away from the double D's like the note said? I had been caught, and not only that, the feeling I was having was a terrible one. It was like being sick and embarrassed and afraid at the same time with nowhere to go. What could I ever do to show I was sorry? I went down under my comforter, and Chunky was at my side. At least he still liked me. I knew nobody else in our house did.